Now, when you take all that information into account, interest rates are going to go down. The Fed does not control mortgage rates. Interest rates are not going down now, today. They will not go down. This is my forecast on March 20th. The Federal Reserve will not lower interest rates on March 20th. And as I've been telling you for about 8 months now, in May is when we're going to start seeing interest rates drop. We will see that they're going to come out that unemployment, 3.7 today, will be right around 5.5 by then. Yes, that is my forecast. California is already at 4.8% unemployment. So California, we got a big population here. That leads the way. So we're going to see interest rates are going to come down because the Federal Reserve is going to have to reduce rates to try and spur the economy. That'll filter through. Yes, that'll filter through to the only thing that the Federal Reserve's number affects is the discount rate. But the Fed funds discount rate does affect prime rate, and almost all of your home equity lines of credit come off of prime rate. So then we start looking and saying, okay, mortgage rates, they're going to go down. Now I just told you that they're moving down a bit today just on some anticipation numbers, and we'll see what kind of carryover there is. Now, we also know that the real estate values in a recession, which we are going into no matter what anybody wants to tell you, unless we're already there, real estate values historically go up during a recession. There's a lot of equity out there right now. People have boatloads of equity. Now, we've talked about the lock-in effect of interest rates. People don't want to buy anything when interest rates are over 5, especially when so many people have an under 4 rate. So what does all of this mean? Well, that's what we're going to chat about. Equity. Blake, what do you think about home equity? What's that? What can we do? We got all that equity there, and home equity in all cases has a 0 rate of return.
Absolutely. And when you look at anytime your denominator is 0, you're going to end up with a 0 outcome, right?
Sure.
So when you look at your investment strategy, if there are this is specifically for the real estate agents, because I believe real estate agents are either they're strong advocates for the real estate industry, or they're strong advocates against the real estate industry. And when
a real estate agent would be an advocate against the industry?
Well, because of their attitude and their lack of understanding, because they get frustrated and they say there's no opportunity. And so once they start to see that there's no opportunity, for those who see the opportunity, there's a greater opportunity.
Sure.
So when I look at each zip code in Orange County, as an example, has up to 1/3, up to 35% of the properties owned without a mortgage. Those people can transfer to another property, keep their property tax base, and they don't need any cash typically, or a loan to complete their transaction if they're moving laterally.
So my son, who doesn't own a house, but if he did, 20 years old, he can move his tax base with him, his property tax base?
Well, there's certain guidelines you have to look at, but within all counties, tax bases are now transferable under those conditions in the state of California. I'm not a tax expert, but I'm just saying is that there are many ways.
So you need to make sure you talk to your tax people.
Of course. Right. But the point is that to shut down and say I can't afford to move because interest rates are high, that's the first objection that you have to overcome as a real estate professional. So when I look at, in 1981, I get my real estate license, and there's an immediate headline in the Dallas Morning News and Dallas Times Herald that says only one property in all of Dallas, the city of Dallas, transferred in February of 1981. I've looked for that headline. I can't find it in the historical records, but I remember my brother and I thinking, wow, this was a really stupid time for me to get my real estate license, because only one real estate agent or two real estate agents participated in that one transaction in a city with over 1 million people at the time.
That's massive.
It was massive, and it was a scary headline. And do you know that the next year was my first full year in real estate, and I sold 24 houses because I was young, I was energetic, I didn't let things stand in the way, and the market shifted, because the one thing that's true about real estate is nothing stays static forever. it doesn't even stay static from one day to the next. Every day there's a new market created.
Not only doesn't ever stay static forever, it doesn't stay static ever.
That's right. So when I look at the consultations that take place between a real estate agent and the consumer, what is the goal? Is the goal to get the next transaction so the real estate agent can put a commission check in their pocket, or is it
well, there's a lot of them that is the goal,
and that's the wrong goal, in my opinion. In my experience, after 40-something years, I've learned a lot about taking care of the client.
And we don't let those people on Ron Siegel Radio because they've got the wrong motivation and the wrong heart.
Right, and they give us a bad reputation. Right, so the byproduct of what we do is is rewarded through the financial outcome that we bring our clients and our customers. And so when you look at the historical data, my grandfather said in 1978, California values have peaked at $25,000 per apartment door, and they will never go up. And it was January of 1978, and he told us to move from Orange County to Dallas. And we moved, I was 19, we moved from Orange County to Dallas. Today, those apartments that are in Orange County, he missed it by a little bit because the valuations are over $400,000 per door on the properties that he owned, because he owned some very high valued properties.
Wow.
I mean, and so when I look at the valuations, he owned starting with only 8 apartment units in 1968. If he owned everything he owned today, he would be worth about $4.5 billion.
So he could almost pay Elon Musk's salary.
He could almost.
So think about this concept. And I brought this up in the first segment. We talked a little bit about this. So Elon Musk goes out and says that don't pay me a salary, give me a stock options. And if I do well, then I make boatloads of money, being him, not me. If I don't do well, I eat it, right? That's called opportunity. He saw opportunity in the market. Now, I don't know too many people that are going to make $55 billion over the next 5 or 10 years. I'm going to be real straight. I don't know too many of them. Maybe Blake, but not most. But here's the issue. In our own way, we've developed equity in our properties, and now you're sitting at a point of opportunity. What can you do with that equity? It's called opportunity. Don't let it just sit there. And, I love when Blake comes on and he came up with this topic today about talking about this, because there's a lot of real estate agents out there that don't understand this. They're transactional. They're not looking to be a advisor for life. That's the big difference. That's what we're talking about here. You can get educated. So let's talk that area. So you don't have to call your real estate agent, because about 3/4 of them don't understand what we're going to be talking about today. There's a quarter of them that are decent, but 90% of real estate agents don't even do a transaction. So that's a different story.
But all your listeners are decent, Ron.
That's right.
Good people.
Well, no, but yeah,
because nobody's going to waste their time listening to us if they're not.
Right. And my point is that we want to educate on, taking that home equity. What can you do with it? And
a lot.
Okay, so give us some ideas, Jim.
Well, just think about it. If you're an older couple and you're thinking of selling, and maybe it's time you have to downsize, because the majority of houses in Orange County are 2-story. So the prize is the 1-story, but there's nothing wrong with selling right now. I mean, everybody says, oh, I don't want to be a buyer. I don't want to be a seller. I don't want to be anything. I'm just going to sit on the sidelines and wait. This is the time to throttle it, man. This is the time to go, because one, the housing inventory is limited, but at the same time, so are the number of buyers. So depending on which way the housing market goes, there's going to be more buyers, or the prices are going to drop, and our interest rates are going to drop. It's always just going to get better. It can get worse, but if you're in the game, it's going to get better. So yeah, it's a good time to go ahead and sell that 2-story, pay cash, take the equity, pay cash for a 1-story. You still end up with no house payment. And
why do you want to pay cash for the 1-story though, when you're getting 0 rate of return on your home equity?
Because you could turn around and take that cash. You can still take that cash back out. I mean, how far do you want to go into that conversation? Because you can pay cash, you can buy something.
I never believe in home equity.
If you're worried, okay, you never do. I know that. And but if you're worried that you're going to pay 6.5%, you want to pay 4.5% on your loan, then you're going to be a cash payer. if you're not worried about that because you know it's going to go down eventually and you're going to refi and you're going to do that, you're going to buy 2 properties.
What if you
follow what I'm
take?
saying? I mean, the scenarios are wide open depending on the individual and what their capability.
Well, let's say you
if-
own a house at the 1.3 or so $1 million median home price, whatever that means, whatever the word median actually
Right.
Yeah,
means.
whatever
We
median
don't
is
have to get
today.
into that conversation. But let's just say you have one of 1.3 million and you want to downsize and go to a senior retirement home, active living community. Why wouldn't you buy your own fourplex and go and live in one of the units, rent out the other 3, and you probably end up, on many circumstances, you could end up with a cash flow that's positive. You'd still own all the equity that you put into it, and you'd have tenants paying off whatever mortgage there is and putting cash in your pocket.
Right.
And
So let's think about exactly what you just said, Blake, because I'm going to challenge Jim all day on this one because
Here we go.
because I'm not a believer in home equity because of
Yeah.
the 0 rate of return.
yes,
I'm going to look at the other way around from what you just said, Blake. That fourplex, if you're going to live in one of them,
mm-hmm.
the new guidelines say that you can put 5% down.
Yes.
So you go and buy a $1.6 million fourplex. Is that available anywhere?
Yeah, well, and maybe not in
No,
Orange
no.
County, but you can get 1.6, you can get 1.5, 1.4 all day long in certain zip codes.
Heck,
in
I
Orange
think there's
County.
one. I think
We
one
have
of the
one
agents
listed
in
at
your office.
1.6 million
Right.
around there, and so yeah, I mean the comparison is relatively achievable.
So you're putting 80,000 down,
Mhm.
and you're going to probably rent out the units in there, 2,000, 3,000 a month, something like that.
Probably, yeah.
Right. So that's gonna make your payments. You got it made, and now you
Freed
live
up
there
your
for a
ca-
year,
You freed up your cash.
freed up your cash that you had to call Jim and go buy something for cash if he wants to pay cash for it.
Yeah.
Right. But the other side of it is, so even in Jim's scenario, okay, I want to wait until I get a 4.5% interest rate. Well, go in there and use some of that cash to buy some of the cash, not a lot of it, to buy down the rate to get that 4.5 rate today.
You're getting it now. Your problem is you're stuck on leaving the equity there. I'm trying to I said keep it working. Buy 2 houses. Don't
There
buy
you go.
one.
That makes sense to
You
me.
you keep getting stuck on that. I'm saying
Pay
saying,
cash.
okay, yeah. Okay, I'm transferring. I've got 700 in equity in this, so I'm going. I mean, it's
You're
like
suggesting reasonable leverage.
yeah. I mean, you got to get. I
Okay.
mean, you got to remember, depending on the age of the if the person, let's say the person's 70 years old, and they've just recently retired, but they want to downsize. That is someone that's not going to be willing to go ahead and take all that cash and spread it out onto more things. They're not going to do it. They're going to want to reduce their monthly as much as they can. So yeah, so that equity is going to go right back into the house. So you got to
wait,
but
reduce
then they
the
could turn around. Remember, they could turn around and reverse mortgage, and that equity can come right back out.
well, you buy with reverse mortgage
or
too.
you can buy
Yeah,
with
well-
reverse mortgage, depending on the sophistication of that 70-year-old person. Remember, that 70-year-old person probably hasn't bought a house in 20 years.
And if you're concerned about future demand for California housing, there's the articles that you can find on Google that show that by 2025, the state has to build 3.5 million households or build housing units just to get even with the demand that currently exists.
So
that's
we know
one-
they're going to put 3,000 of them
That's
in
3,000
of
Beverly
Beverly
Hills.
We all
not
know-
all
we-
3.5 million,
he
but
said-
but
Here, give us
3,000.
the rim shot for that
Yeah.
because we knew that was coming. But no, the state of California.
Let's continue our conversation. Jim Norton, Blake Vartanian, Realty Pro 100. We're chatting a little bit about, just and I love this idea because I when we started this broadcast in 2010, not today's broadcast, but the concept in 2010, the idea was we didn't want to just be an interview or an interrogation, or it was supposed to be just an idea of you get to eavesdrop on some friends having coffee. Well, we don't have coffee here,
Yeah.
but we're just chatting. And the beauty of it is we never know what rabbit hole we're going to go down. Sometimes we agree with each other, sometimes we don't. But the idea is I believe, and I hope that you're getting some educational benefit from this, because Blake hit it on the head. There is a lot of people that are paralyzed right now. And one of the things that comes up is fear. And when we are fearful, a lot of times, and when we're uneducated, ignorant, we tend to look and say, okay, what's going on? We don't know. I mean, I can share with you and I've told you, we're going into a recession, and recessions historically means real estate values go up. And we've got a chart for that shows it. Out of the last 6 recessions, and I'm going to count 5 of them are only legitimate. And I'll tell you why. So one of them in 1991, real estate values dropped 1.9%. In 1980, they were up 6.1. 1981, they're up 3.5. 2001, they're up 6.6. And 2020, they were up 6. Now, I kind of skip over 2008 because that was not, in my opinion, a traditional recession. That was real estate caused the economy to tank. And real estate values dropped 19.7%. Now, that hurt if it was one of your houses, but 8 or 9 years later, values are back up again. So real estate values, historically, they go up during a recession. So when do you want to buy? I think I'm going to wait until they're up higher. No, buy now.
Both of those in red. I can't read your chart from here. It's a little, looks like my eye chart. I can't read that either. But both of those are real estate driven, especially the 2008.
Right.
And they're the ones.
The other one's
there's
1991.
one where there was a price reduction. Now
It took historic lender fraud though in order to get that recession.
Right.
But I was one of the fools in 2005 or so. I bought a rental in 2005, and it took, like you said, it tanked from there. It went nothing but down. It was click, 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 click in terms of value. But as soon as that recession bottom and came back, it's up, 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 up. It's one of the best performing properties I've got. And
so you still have it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So if you could go back in time, you'd buy it again?
I'd have bought 2.
There you go.
I would have bought 2 if I could go back in time.
So here's the thing right now.
The quandary people have, real quick if I can, the quandary people have when we go into a recession, you said, yeah, real estate values go up, interest rates go down, but then they freeze again because they're saying that, well, wait a minute, I'm worried about my job. I'm worried about how my income will get. And also the buyer pool goes down. Right now, the buyer pool is large. I mean, it's in good shape. But when you get
Josh, do we have a chart of the real estate of the rates? What rates do in the recession? I don't know if I gave you that one or not.
But
but hang on 1 second, Jim. What I want to really get into here is let's think about this concept.
Okay.
Blake mentioned earlier that there's a boatload of equity out there. Mm-hmm. If real estate values go up, and if you take out that equity right now, and real estate values go, and you buy real estate, and real estate values go up, you're in good shape.
Right.
If you take out if you really are scared that real estate values are going to drop, if you take out the equity right now, aren't you better off having pulled that equity out and put it into cash? Because if the real estate values do drop, which they won't, but if the real estate values
you want
do
the
drop,
bank to own the property, not you.
Right. Yeah. I've already got that cash. They're not the lender's not going to come back and say, you know something, that value dropped.
Right there. I think both of us over here froze right when you said that, is because the first thing that popped in our brains is the good old capital gains. And right away. So you've got to have a strategy. We've got to take
what capital gains are there if you refinance?
No, I'm just saying,
if you take your cash out.
None.
And that's why you got to remember this is strategy. Some people think you're saying to take that equity out, you have to sell it.
Gotcha.
And then you're going to create that thing. But if you refi it out, yeah, you're sitting on a ton of cash. Now, someday you're going to pay capital gains on that.
I'm going to die first.
Yeah, leave it for your heirs. And with the step up, they won't have to pay.
That's an important point. We kind of jest about it, but it's an important point because I've had some folks, it's where they've sold the property. Dad says, I'm not feeling good, and I don't know that I'm going to last much longer. I'm in my 80s, and I'm going to sell this so my kids don't have to worry about it. And now they've just built a nice capital gains issue in,
right,
as opposed to giving the property to the heirs, get that step up in basis, and we're not giving tax advice here, but get that step up in basis and let the heirs sell it and not give Uncle Sam
You
anything.
didn't also finish the plot is that you, let's say you have a 1.3 medium house, you've got $200,000 left, so there's something like 800 to 1.1 million in cash available. You can only take out so much. Bank is going to give you all of it. So
Why not?
let's say, well, if you get to 100%, you get to 100%.
You get 80%, 75,
So you get to
80%.
80%. So you've got this large chunk of cash now that you can put in the bank, and then you don't know when the capital gains is going to hit. But you also say, I can't live in this house anymore physically because I need a one story. Take your 800,000, buy the next property, keep that property, rent it out. keep it in the
Absolutely.
pool.
Now,
and
before you go too
continue
far, I
on.
want to show.
You're not restricted and you're not limited.
Let's take a look and see what the real estate rate, what the mortgage rates do in a recession.
There you go.
1980, 81, 91, 2001, 2008, 2020. Every single time
Drop.
interest rates dropped.
Mhm.
Every time. Now, thanks, Josh. I'm glad you got that one for us real quick. So here's the next step to what Jim just said. So you've got that 1.3. You're liberating 800,000. You're keeping the property and renting it out. More cash flow for you. That's good when you're in retirement. Now you take 300,000 of that 800,000 and go buy a $600,000 home with a reverse mortgage. Most people don't think you can buy with a reverse mortgage, but you can. No payments required for the rest of your life. Now we've still got $500,000. And if we take our traditional 4 or 5% annually from that, $25,000, that's more cash flow. And once you're in your golden years, I'm going to suggest it's not about payments. It's not about wealth building. It's not about accumulation. It's about cash flow. Right? When you get to be as old as Jim, you just care about,
It is. It's about cash.
How much do I have enough money? Is my money going to run out before my life?
Right.
That's the biggest. And we talked to Tom Borsick yesterday. The biggest fear that seniors have is running out of money.
Now, I got to gloat on one thing. I definitely might be in a little bit of trouble. February, my mother's 100th birthday.
Wow.
So
Nice.
maybe the genes are good. I don't know. Might not be mine. But at the point is like she has that. I have this. I'm in the middle of this conversation because we have it all the time. She worries that, I mean, she's living in an assisted facility with she has an apartment basically in it.
Sure.
And has a lot of friends, does a lot of things, but at the same time she worries how long, cash flow, because she doesn't feel bad. She doesn't feel like tomorrow is the end of the world.
At 100 years old.
Yeah, at 100.
Isn't that amazing?
So
that's awesome.
so you're
a lucky man.
Well, I'm just saying, is think about it.
No, I mean, having your mother around that long, if you've got a good relationship and she's in good health.
No, she's your mother still. I mean, so whether I'm my age today or whether I was 6 years old, I'm still getting yelled at.
God bless her too.
And
Blake
probably for
popped in, she'd probably go, "Where you been?"
I know exactly.
How come
she
you haven't
would
called
know
me?
Yelling at you and probably for good cause.
Because we grew up in the same neighborhood. So
yeah.
If you want more information about how to use your home equity to get ahead further or to grow your real estate portfolio, and yes, I will say it again as I always do, real estate is the best investment class there is, bar none. And I can make a mathematical case for that anytime you want.